Hey guys, it's Karis. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am doing a 2019 reading list, and I'm just going to show you all the books that I read in 2018. A lot of these books that I read in 2018, I actually had previously read before, but I reread them. We're just going to get started. So there's two categories of books. There is sort of like non-fiction self-help books, and then there are just straight fiction books. We're going to start with the self-help books because there are only two of them. First book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and this book is kind of all about just breathing into the moment. The only moment that we have is now, and that's the only moment that ever will exist. I read in the morning and at night, but I only read like a few pages at a time. So yeah, it took me like a month and a half to read this. And the second book that we have is Sacred Powers. I think this book took me about 2 months just because it is pretty thick and there's a lot of like worksheet parts. Like, I'll find a page. There's like questions and stuff that you can answer, so I'd say that's why it took me a while. I wanted to like actually think out my answers. And those are all the self-help books that I read this year because I only started getting into kind of self-help books in like August, and it usually takes me about a month to read a book like that. Now we're getting into the fiction books, and let's just say there are a lot. These are in no order at all, like I wouldn't even be able to put them in order. I didn't really start avidly reading this year until I had to read a summer book, which was 1,000 Splendid Suns. This book was so good, and like it was a school book that I had to read, so I didn't really think I was gonna like it, and then I actually like got into it, and it's a really good book. I think I rated it maybe 9 out of 10. I don't know, I really liked it. The next book that I read this year was Letters to the Lost. It is actually a pretty thick book, so this book was really good. I think I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, and it only took me, I want to say like maybe 12 hours total to read the whole thing, because I'm a really fast reader. On long car trips I'll just read the whole time. So yeah, it doesn't really take me that long to get through a book, and that's kind of a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because then you can read a lot of books, but it's also a curse because then you have to buy more books, which is more money. So it's a really good book. I highly recommend it. I feel like that's going to be a common theme throughout this entire video, is me just saying I highly recommend it because all these books were really good. The next book that I read was All the Bright Places, and this book was so good. I think this is probably my second favorite book that I've ever read. It took me less than a day. It took me probably about 6 hours to get through this whole book because it's just so good. It's literally so good. Read it. I also reread Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. What this book is it's 3 different stories, and they all kind of come together, but not like to involve the same characters, just like, oh, you see this character in one story that's the main character of another story. It's pretty cool. The next book I read was Holding Up the Universe, and it is from the same author of All the Bright Places. So I went into this book having really high expectations. It's about 2 completely opposite people, just like All the Bright Places, and how they like come together. And it's a really good book. I didn't like it as much as I liked All the Bright Places, but I mean, you win some, you lose some. The next book that I read in 2018 was Catcher by Kaylin Nicholson, and can I just say, this book was so good. Because I watch Kaylin on YouTube, and when she said that she was coming out with a book, I was so excited because I love everything that she kind of like stands for. And she's coming out with Catcher 2, I don't know when, hopefully soon, but I'm so excited to read that because this book was so amazing, and the cliffhanger at the end, I was like, oh my god. And the last book that I read in 2018 was Looking for Alaska by John Green. This doesn't have its cover right now because I don't know where it is. If you know anything about me and my love of books, you would know that this is my favorite book of all time. It is so good. I just love John Green, and I love like relatable characters, and Alaska is a relatable character. And she also loves books, so I mean, and if you haven't read it, it's like a 10 out of 10. It's perfect. So those are all the books that I read in 2018, and now we're gonna move on to the books that I want to read / am going to read in 2019. There is a lot of them, so I don't know if I'm going to finish all of them, but I probably will because I have an obsession. I actually have 4 self-help books for this year, so we're just gonna start with that. The first book is The 4 Agreements, and I started reading this on the 1st, and so far it's really good. I'm already 47 pages in, and it's really like eye-opening. Like, I didn't think it was gonna be that like powerful, but it has been so far. So I'm excited to finish this. The next one that I have is You Are a can't say that because my parents watch my videos, so you can read. I feel like everybody who is interested in self-help has to read this book, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited to read it. Next book that I have is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Frick. Because once again, can't say that word. And this is by Mark Manson, and I'm pretty sure he's like a blogger or something. Excited to read this too because I give a lot of fricks sometimes, and I would just like to not give a frick. The next book in my self-help category is kind of like a little autobiography. It's Becoming by Michelle Obama, and if you haven't heard of this book, then I don't really know what to tell you. It's kind of just like about her life and how she got to where she is right now, which obviously is somewhere everybody should want to be because she's just so influential and amazing, and I'm excited to learn from her. So that is it for my self-help books, and next we're on to fiction. There are even more books than there was in my 2018 one. So the first book is The Anatomical Shape of a Heart, and this is just a love story, obviously, because what would I be without love books? What? And then the next book that I got is Crash by Nicole Williams, and I'm excited to read this book. The cover is pretty... there's some things going on right there. So this is another romance. Yep. And then we have I'll Give You the Sun, and it's by Jandy Nelson, and kind of the main reason I picked this book was because the cover is just so pretty. Next book that I'm going to read, and actually I'm in the process of reading right now, is Never Always Sometimes, and it's another love story. This book is kind of like The Kissing Booth because it's about these two people who have a list of things that they're not supposed to do. It's kind of like, it's like their never list. They're breaking all of the rules their senior year, so it's gonna get pretty spicy pretty soon. The next book that we have is Eleanor and Park. I've had this book for a while. I just haven't read it yet. I've heard that it's really good. People always say that it's really good, but like it was never one of those books where I was like, oh, I need to have that. But hopefully it is as good as everyone says it is. So the next book that we have is that's not the right one. So the next book that we have is The Selection. I'm gonna reread this book because it was just so amazing and incredible, so read it. Oh, and this series is by Kiera Cass. I don't know if that's how you say it, if it's Kiera or Kiara. What I just said was the same exact thing. I actually read The Selection in 2018, like in December-ish, November-ish, but I might reread it again. You never know. You gotta keep up with the characters in your brain. So, and then we have The Elite, which is the second book of the Selection series. I haven't read this one in quite a while. And the third book in the series is The One. This is technically the end of the trilogy, and I've also read this one before, but now that I have my own copy, I'm gonna reread it again. And then we have The Air, which is technically the fourth book, but it's not a part of the trilogy, so it's just like the after book. So This Girl is America, and The Air is about her daughter. The last book that I have to read for 2019 is The Crown, which comes after The Air, but this is basically about her daughter again still. I just realized you could probably hear Charlie doing that the whole time. Charlie! I hate my life. So those are not all of the books that I own, but those are like the main ones that I've read, because the other ones are important books, but I just didn't read them in 2018. That is the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!